exclusive content you can't get anywhere else.
On this issue, homeless, affordable housing.
Fox Nation, plus the real stories behind the headlines. Documentaries
I'm
on
going back to
Jim
the city council meeting. I need some guidance from
find
you.
on Fox Nation. More of the opinion done right you crave. It's on Fox Nation.
They had this whole thing about the police department. 2 weeks ago, they had been accused of murder. What is the responsibility of people in the community to know what the law is? I understand that people believe that they are profiled before a crime begins and that they are accused of crimes that never occur. I mean, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but at some point,
but I'd be willing to much more rare.
Political noise. Chris Willis on the Fox News Channel. Real news, real honest opinion.
Then again, it could be just my middle class upbringing.
To build on any momentum.
Most part,
parents taught you right from wrong.
they taught me right from wrong. You know, we pretty much stayed out of the line of sight of the constabulary. You know, never had any reason to have a visit from members of the law.
So the city is going to spend, and again, that guy Michael Brown got choked up there in wherever it was, Chicago or New York, and he died because he's selling Lucy's on the street. You know, I told the story many times in my life.
One of the only top-tier candidates not supporting Medicare for all.
When I was a little kid, I would buy a pack of cigarettes for a quarter and sell the cigarettes for a nickel a piece to make money. And because I had the quarter, I could buy the pack of cigarettes, and the other kids didn't have the quarter because I'd earned the money to have the quarter. And so, I understand people that are trying to figure out how to make a living and how things can go wrong.
A college football team is devoting today's game to breast cancer awareness in honor of the family of the opposing coach.
If somebody says don't do it, please, I tell them not to do it. Please don't need to tell me but one time. So if they stop me for speeding, I'm not going to get into an argument with them about whether I was speeding or not. I might say, well,
and you're right about that, because it's not going to be solved there on the roadside.
no.
There's never will be any sort of resolution where the policeman says, you know,
Kanye West is seeing strong reaction to the
go along your merry way.
So having said that, my wife, who has been stopped for speeding, has been sent on her merry way. But the issue is that, yeah, so that's you know, so and I gotta say that I've been stopped a couple of times where people were nice enough to say, you know, you were pointing this time to drive safer, and you pay more attention on the road. You know. So officers are always nice. But I can remember clearly being stopped when I was, this is decades ago, I was highballing at the hospital. I had to be out of Jackson, Tennessee. And I had to be at Jackson, Tennessee at 6:30 in the morning. So I'm leaving the hospital at 2:30. I am highballing up the interstate. And I'm going downhill towards Cookville. And I know that there's police in there, through there. And I said to myself, yeah, I said to myself, I need to be slowing down. And so when the officer pulled me over, I can remember those lights coming on. I'm the only car on the interstate. There's no tractor trailer trucks running. There's nobody. It's 3:30 in the morning, right? And the officer pulled me over. And the female officer walks up to the side of the car. I turned the dome lights on. You know, I got both hands, pulled the windows down so she could see in the car. But I remembered how brave she had to be to pull a car over. And then when she told me how fast I was going, I said, well, I'm glad you did exactly what I told her. I said, I'm glad you didn't stop me 3 or 4 minutes sooner because I was already slowing down. And she said, thank you for your honesty, and she wrote me a ticket, and said, please drive safe for going on out the road. So, I remember how brave I thought she was. Pull me over. Instead of just letting me drive on down the road. So I hear all these people saying, all these officers, all these evil, mean, and terrible people, and that they have to learn Swahili, because there's people who speak Swahili in some of these states. And they have to learn the way these people react, and those people react, and, you know, they don't have to worry about how those people react, we got to worry about how these people. And so it's always, I mean, I didn't hear anybody compliment the police on being safe. I mean, when the police don't respond, they get in trouble. When they do respond, they get in trouble.
Damn if you do, damn if you don't.
Make sure you check out our page at rocketwoman.org or check us out on Facebook. We've got all that stuff there. So excited to have you there. So we've got a good show for you.
The city
as we approach the
gets a $500,000 grant from the federal government to spend. I believe they did that. That was on some kind of mental health facility, by the way. They're getting all this money for these parks, and yet they're still in discussions about body cameras and de-escalation training and trying to figure out where the money's coming from for that. Don't build a park. That's simple. Don't build a park. Don't build a walking trail. If those things are really important, don't do the things that people have to do. Make hard choices. Or let's just pick up $1 million, easy money, right here from the University of Tennessee. Why doesn't the city go to the state and say, we want you to gift us the property, right?
And we will do something with it.
We'll do something with it. We'll turn it into a park, and it's on the public bus line, on the water, overlooking the water, right?
Because most people, when it comes to the water here in Knoxville, about the only real opportunity they get to see it is if they go down to the old city, you know, that portion of the water by the old city.
Right.
So everywhere else, you know, it's, you know, private property owned by wealthy people, and it's Sequoia Hills and down Lions View and et cetera, North Shore, et cetera.
So, to your point, the city built Septry Landing, I believe it's called. Septry Landing is $7 million of city money, also with grant money from somewhere else. $7 million for that part. So they spend $7 million to put a park on the water with parking on a little 4-acre tract, 3-acre tract of ground down on the water in South Knoxville, right? Get to it off Sevier Avenue. It's a nice park. There wasn't a water park in South Knoxville. A park on the water. So I'm not saying that it isn't nice, but why isn't the Eugenia Williams property a park? Why is it requiring to be multi-million-dollar houses for the super rich? That's not correct. I said super rich. That's not correct. Super rich, you have to have over $500 million for the wealthy. For the wealthy.
Not that we're certainly sound like communists here.
I don't. So I'm all for the.
I'm all for. Yeah, I aspire to be wealthy,
and so I have no problem with the people doing it. Right. I have no problem if that property was up for open bids. Right. I have no problem. But what's going to happen is you got to have somebody who wants to buy it,
who wants to put up with the restrictions
of this historical society, and they've got the money to do it. And that eliminates the people who have the money to do it, but don't want to put up with the restrictions.
Right.
Right. So there's a big pool. There were at least 7 of those people. There were at least 7 of them in the parking lot on Thursday.
Who were willing to put up with the restrictions, or just had the money?
I deemed them to have had the money to do something, but I don't think any of those people are going to put up with it. Now, 2 of them aren't for sure, because they said the restrictions were just too much. They wanted to see what it looked like to see if they thought about it, but after walking through the property, they decided it was just too much. So, but it's all about choices, Kelvin. Who wins in real estate and who loses in real estate. I don't care what. Every city in America has the same political decisions. Who builds parks? Where do they go? Who gets to have the park? Who gets to live next to the park? Where are we getting the money to build the park? Why are we doing that with this piece of property instead of doing this with that piece of property? Those always get to be issues. So last week, it was all about social manipulation and people being widgets in society. Today, it's about throwing money away. What are we going to talk about next week?
I'm still kind of interested in this, the impact of zoning on not only property values, but how it tends to push people out, push out low income or
I don't know if anybody's
affordable
I don't know if anybody's watching on Facebook.
affordable housing.
But here's the homework assignment, since I've already done this. Ferguson, Missouri, they've been in the news.
No. Has it?
Isn't that where that guy got killed, Ferguson? We had all the riots.
Yeah, but it's hasn't been in the news lately.
If you look at Ferguson, I wonder how many people have Googled the image, the map of Ferguson. I wonder how many people have then, once they get the map and they pull it up where they can read it and they can see how Ferguson is shaped sort of like that Italian boot look, right? Mm-hmm. And you can look at the highways that run through Ferguson, which have public bus lines. And then you Google, so you got all these little surrounding communities around Ferguson, and Google zonings in the name, whatever those little towns are, right? And pull up the zoning restrictions, the zoning requirements that have been put on all these towns that surround Ferguson. If you really want to see land use practices in action, nobody covered that. Nobody said anything about that. But what happened is Ferguson winds up not having strict zoning restrictions, zoning requirements. They allowed for people to move into the area, and as the poor got pushed out of the other areas near Ferguson, Ferguson is where they went to live. And so over a 5 to 7 year period of time, and this is everybody should check on this and prove this to themselves. You wind up having a situation in which, and what got me to think about it was they interviewed after the riots a woman who was blocking a Korean, there was a market right there, and she and some other people in Ferguson lined up in front of this market, this little store, to stop the rioters from going into that store and tearing that store up. And so she and 15 or 20 of their neighbors blockaded the front of that building. And they interviewed her, and she said, "We don't know who all these people are. We've lived here forever, and all of these people just moved in the last 4 or 5 years." And so that's what made me begin to research. 2 little clicks on Google anymore. And it's, to your point, how zoning impacts value, how it changes the value, it changes it significantly.
And there's a study out that shows, that indicates that places with greater numbers or greater or more stringent restrictions on zoning,
yes,
have a tendency to push out Republicans and bring Democrats in.
So, and the reason is
because Republicans tend not to really want to put up with that kind of crap.
if you're just picking a difference, Republicans in general believe in personal independence and self-reliance and personal responsibility. Democrats believe that society is better when it's organized by a control of government. And the issue gets to be, for me, who are the people that are government that are going to tell me what I should do? And the more regulations that a community has, the better people respond to that kind of control. So the more aesthetics that are in a neighborhood, the more people want to live there. So that's the reason it's easy to say, as these parks get built in South Knoxville and the sign restrictions go in South Knoxville, all over the city, as these new landscaping restrictions that are being designed for part of the recode process go into effect, everything in the city goes up in value, and everything in South Knoxville goes up quickly. So,
All right, let's wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Okay, Calvin, thank you for staying a few minutes extra. Eventually, we'll have a podcast because this is what we need to be doing. This is fun. I actually look forward to this. I'm gonna start bringing my dogs with me.